good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is my apology video to you guys. Unfortunately, this is one of those days that the stars have aligned and all of us have commitments. And we're also sorry for the short notice here. I picked up a trip. I'm here in Atlanta. Matt isn't feeling great today, and Nev and Carlos and John have other commitments. So unfortunately, we're unable to do a live show today. If you're a Patreon supporter, fear not, we will make amends with you. But we will see everybody next week. It was a great week in aviation. We might have some military stories that will play out here just because they were pre-recorded. But all of our commercial stories, our commercial fans, will move all those stories over to next week and we continue there. But again, sorry we can't be with you live today, but enjoy your Friday evening. Take care, everybody.
Bogies 13550, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay. 100 St. Boogie.
Hey guys, unfortunately this first story comes to us from the New York Times as well as the Marine Corps Times. 5 U.S. Marines were killed when their aircraft crashed during a training mission in Southern California this last Wednesday, according to the U.S. Marine Corps. The aircraft was an MV-22 Osprey that belonged to the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing. It crashed about 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time near Glamis, California. That's about 100 miles east of San Diego, according to that Marine Corps statement. Of course, the cause of the crash is still under investigation, and they said that equipment recovery efforts were underway. The identities of the 5 Marines have not been released pending the notification of their families. General Bradford Gehring, the commanding general of the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing, said that we mourn the loss of our Marines in this tragic mishap, and our hearts go out to their families and friends as they cope with this tragedy. An additional statement on Wednesday, the Marine Corps said that contrary to initial reports, there was no nuclear material on board this aircraft. I'm not sure where that came from, but it kind of made its way through the media that for some reason this aircraft was transporting nuclear materials. That's just not a thing. I think that was just the initial false reporting that we usually see from a mishap, something like this. But according to multiple agencies, emergency medical workers responded to the crash site. That's according to Gil Reboyar, who is a spokesman for the Imperial County Sheriff's Office. Of course, this crash comes almost 3 months after 4 Marines were killed in Norway during a NATO training exercise using the same MV-22B. That was according to the U.S. Navy. As we know, this aircraft's mission, ship to shore transport of personnel and supplies, and infiltration, exfiltration of Marine troops is something that you have to practice. Southern California is an area that is very busy for military training. We don't know. I'm not going to speculate on what the cause of this crash was, but we will certainly keep our ears open for any new developments that comes with this, and of course, our thoughts go out with the families of the crew members as well as the United States Marine Corps. This next military story comes to us from the Air National Guard, .af.mil. There's a new agility test that's going on in Michigan. The Air National Guard airmen and aircraft from around the country conducting their first Air National Guard Readiness Exercise Program event. They're calling that Agile Rage 22. This exercise is hosted by the Alpena Combat Readiness Training Center, part of the National All-Domain Warfighting Center in northern Michigan. That's going to be from June 4th through 10th. Agile Rage focuses on Air National Guard training priorities and future warfighting concepts. Most notably, this exercise brings to the forefront the agile combat employment capabilities and tests airmen in an austere combat environment. Exercises similar to Agile Rage 22 are redefining Air Force operations, prioritizing decentralized command and control and distributed military operations. What that means is that instead of having a central base, the leaders can deploy small units, small squadrons, small flights out to austere environments and basically give them decentralized control. Major Garrett Ruby, the exercise director, said that AR-22 is bringing together multiple Air National Guard capabilities from across the nation to test the performance of their multi-capable airmen in a highly contested environment. Through this exercise, the Air National Guard is developing and validating techniques, and procedures for future warfighting, including austere air-to-ground strike capabilities for large-scale combat operations. Now, if you deconstruct that entire statement, you can pretty much say that that is mirroring the situation that's going on in Ukraine right now, basically sending troops out into a new and emerging, target sets and always a new way to fight a conflict. As we've talked about on the show, these kind of plans are on the shelf, and occasionally when you see a country do something else, you have to take that plan off the shelf, dust it off, and then kind of add or take away different pages from the plan as you need to. This particular exercise, Agile Rage 22, is including 810 Thunderbolts, F-16 Fighting Falcons, C-130Js, and MQ-9 Reapers. Additionally, battlefield airmen, special tactics, tactical air control parties, and tactical air control squadrons, combat communications, all these support personnel that are not really support, their operators, are very good operators at that, all coming together in this one exercise in Michigan. According to the exercise concepts, the participating aircraft will redeploy at short notice to Volk Field in Wisconsin during portions of the exercise, and then perform these integrated sort of combat turns, as in forward arming, rearming, refueling points, as far, quickly rearming and refueling a jet and getting it back to a different location, basically just reducing the amount of time that's on the ground. According to Brigadier General Brian Teff, who is the Assistant Adjutant General and the Michigan Air National Guard Commander, he said that northern Michigan is one of the best places in the nation to test the agility of our force. Michigan is a champion for agile combat employment, and they are proud to host the first ever iteration of Agile Rage, which leverages that state's unique partnerships, training environment, and ample resources for today's fight, posturing for future missions to stay one step ahead of their adversaries. And like I always say, you gotta, before you go into a fight, you gotta train like you fight. And this is another example of the Air Force sort of flexing their off-the-shelf plans to meet current combat needs. This next military story comes to us from australiadefense.com.au. Now, Australia has accused China of conducting a dangerous intercept of a Royal Australian Air Force P-8 Poseidon multi-mission aircraft in late May, with the Australian Defence Minister subsequently saying that the Chinese jet released flares that were actually ingested by the P-8's engine. The defense issued a statement early Sunday morning saying that the incident occurred over international airspace over the South China Sea on the 26th of May, adding that the P-8 was intercepted by a Chinese Shenyang J-16 while conducting, quote, routine maritime surveillance activity. It added that the intercept then resulted in a dangerous maneuver which posed a safety threat to the RAAF crew and the aircraft, and that the Australian government had raised its concerns with its Chinese counterparts over this incident. The Defense Minister, Richard Marles, later provided more details about this intercept when being questioned about it on TV, saying that the J-16 flew alongside the P-8 and released flares before accelerating and cutting right across the front of the RAAF aircraft and settling in front of it at a very close distance, quote, and releasing a bundle of chaff which contained small pieces of aluminum, some of which were ingested by the P-8. He also added that obviously this was very dangerous, but that the RAAF crew were all unharmed, and praised them for responding professionally during the incident. As you guys can imagine, the difference between chaff and flares. Chaff are hot, basically cartridges of design fire, little ball of fire at different wavelengths, designed to confuse heat-seeking missiles. But then you have these chaff buckets, which is a bucket filled with a cartridge of different size aluminum strips, and you can imagine that ingesting that into an engine could potentially lead to a flame out or even just damage to the engine. As such, that is a Chinese aircraft causing damage to an Australian aircraft, and could have potentially turned into a very, very serious incident. As you guys remember, there was a mishap a couple years ago where a Chinese aircraft intercepted a P-3 Orion, cut across the nose, did a dangerous maneuver, and clipped the nose of the P-3, where they ended up having to land on Hainan Island. The entire crew was safe. I believe the Chinese pilot also ejected or was safe. That led to a very contentious moment between the two nations, where the crew was actually held, not captive, but they were certainly held against their will on Hainan Island. And luckily that all turned out well. But these kinds of maneuvers, we've talked about, Captain Nix talked about it from the European standpoint, and flying against Russian bears and things like that. But it takes a different turn when it gets so close that the aircraft are getting that close and causing damage to each other. So we'll keep an eye on this, like everything else. And China, we almost don't talk about it so much on the show, all the aircraft that they're sending across contested boundaries, but this is just another current event to add amongst the other ones that we need to keep an eye on. All right, this last military story comes to us from warbirdnews.com. As you guys know, I always try to throw one warbird story in there. But the Military Aviation Museum is excited to bring back a fan favorite event after a 3-year absence. Modeled after the British Proms outdoor concert, this Americanized version of a concert features patriotic music, fireworks, food trucks, fun for the whole family. With important anniversaries to mark this year, the performance will also feature special pairings that commemorate key moments in American history. So a few of these program highlights feature key moments in history, such as the special commemoration of the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Midway. That being said, the FM2 Wildcat is paired with the Midway March by composer John Williams. That was written in 1976 for the movie Battle of Midway, which is a march in American spirit. It obviously fits squarely with this aircraft flying in the air. But also in a tribute to the USS Langley, the Navy's first aircraft carrier, commissioned 100 years ago. The Wildcat will be joined overhead by an FG-1 Corsair and an 84 Skyraider, alongside music from the famed documentary Victory at Sea, which originally broadcast on NBC. Other highlights of the Flying Proms program will include a flying salute to the men of the Doolittle Raid, performing alongside the Virginia Wind Symphony's rendition of March of the Steel Men, performance by the PBY Catalina paired with a classic American folk tune called Shenandoah, and a special tribute to the United States Air Force with a selection of music paired with the fireworks finale, including March of the Resistance by John Williams and Belle of Chicago by John Philip Sousa. So if you are interested in going out there, this place is going to have a VIP option. It's general admission, lawn seating, but there is a VIP option with private seating, exclusive bar service, air-conditioned bathrooms, other perks like a private chalet, all the usual stuff. But if you are interested in something like that, you can head over to eventbrite.com and just search for the Flying Proms Symphonic Air Show, and that's going to be just here in the next couple weeks.